This is a symphony. It's a sensory experience like no other. So it's not every day at Curated that we have an opportunity like this to have 3 unicorns, all SV Lamborghini examples in one room, all in very great colors too, and excellent overall condition. I was thinking this morning, and we were gonna do a deep dive about SVs, but I think there's actually a cooler story and bigger story here. When I was thinking about Lamborghini and their incredible history, it really is the underdog story. And when you think of the Miura SV, the Diablo SV, and the Murcielago SV, and the period that the company was in, and those moments were really these pivotal, difficult moments for the company. Now, if you know anything about Lamborghini, you know that during the 1960s, obviously they launched the company in 1963, and the SV Miura was the final iteration of the Miura series. This is a wider car, the wider wheels. The SV examples lost the famous eyelashes, and most of the SVs came with sort of these upgrades of, you know, vented disc brakes that were common on the late S cars, the chrome trim that started with the S cars. Many had full leather interiors that had AC, split sump, power windows. So they were really the evolution of the Miura. The suspension was different. And then the front bumper, the rear bumper, the front hood, the rear hood. So really the final evolution of what many say is the first supercar and probably the greatest Lamborghini ever made. I mean, I know that this, to me, the Miura SV will go down as probably the most important car. When you think of this, this came from a company that was very, very young. You know, you could say an 8-9-year-old company developed this car and released this car. Now, 150 SVs were produced between 1971, 1972, and a few cars that ran into 1973. And this was at a moment when there was a world fuel crisis. You had the EPA and DOT, you had the EPA cracking down on these cars. So only about 21 SVs came to the US, so a very, very small market. And really, Lamborghini was in a struggling place. This is when you started to hear rumors of Ferruccio Lamborghini not paying bills, not having the opportunity to further grow and develop the cars. And there were rumors in 1971 that the factory was for sale. So a very stressful moment for the company, but out of stress came this pure gem and just fantastic car that forever today will be seen as one of the greatest supercars ever made. You could call the Miura SV in many ways Lamborghini's 250 GTO. I think for many years, these cars were misunderstood. You know, when I first started my career, SVs were trading between 500,000 and 800,000. At one point, these cars were as cheap as 50 to 100,000 in the 1990s. And, you know, today we've had some incredible world record results. Over the last 24 to 36 months, you're seeing these cars finally trade at their, you know, I could say still undervalued compared to Ferraris of their day. But these cars are continuing to grow steam, trading at 4 million, 4.5, 5 million. I've even heard of rumors of cars trading as much as $6 million privately for a few special examples. So to see these cars, you know, finally get the recognition they deserve, the appreciation, the love. And I think what's so cool about the Miura SV is it really is considered the first supercar. And as we see a generational shift, and you see a younger generation chasing cars, building supercar collections, the demand for some of the 50s and 60s Ferraris has subsided, but the demand for the Miura SV has only increased. And you see that, you see young collectors buying these cars, chasing these cars. And I think this is, again, the holy grail produced by Lamborghini. Next, we look at the Diablo SV, and it's funny, the time period of the Diablo SV, as you guys know a little bit about the Lamborghini story, Chrysler purchased the company in 1987, 1992, 1993, it was sold to Megatech, who is the Indonesian investment group who owned the company. And, you know, a lot of changes were happening, and in 1997 to 1998, Lamborghini was in negotiations to sell the company at that point to Volkswagen Audi Group. So right before that, in 1997 and 1998, let's call it 1996, you could not sell a Lamborghini Diablo. These cars were very, very difficult to sell. They, you know, a lot of competition, they were misunderstood. And when you think of the Diablo SV, it was originally developed as a sort of an economy model, a stripped down version, and it was originally proposed, I believe, by a marketing director out of the UK as a sport model. So stripped down interior, rear wheel drive, and sort of a cheaper model. Under 200,000 was their original goal for price point. I've heard of stories and I've spoken to former factory employees that at that point, Lamborghini's business plan, okay, was to build 180 cars a year. So that's nothing. They were definitely struggling, and out comes this car that has forever become iconic, whether it was the Need for Speed video game, the cover of Road and Track, some really incredible test reviews back in the 90s with this, you know, exotic graphics, and the sport version of the Diablo would later be called Sport Veloce as a nod to the original SV. We're standing with a US car here, so a few different features from the US car to the European model, but basically a stripped down interior, different door panels, carbon fiber accessories throughout, these factory OZ wheels, the racing style wheels, the forced air intakes that was used as well on the SVR, the race cars, the satin black features of this car, the rear wing from the SE30. So a lot of very cool features, and only 350 produced for the world. Now, it's sort of interesting because when you go back into production numbers of a Miura SV at 150 cars, there's actually probably only 110 to 120 cars left. A lot of cars were destroyed in period, from whether it was a fire, an accident, all those different things. And the same with Diablo SVs. When I started running the reports for the less than 90 Diablo SVs that came to the US between 1998 and 1999, I was shocked to find that so many cars had been destroyed. So again, very, very rare car, and very sort of pivotal point of Lamborghini's history. The company, as we know, would then be sold to Volkswagen Audi Group, and would flourish and grow from there. And Lamborghini originally intended to produce 350 of these cars, but that did not happen. I think this car is number 214 of 350. And if you guys don't realize, you know, 2008, 2009 was a very difficult time in the world. Again, similar to the story of the Miura SV, the fuel crisis, all of these different things going on, the mid-90s, a slow period in the world economy, and then you have the global recession of 2008, 2009, and Lamborghini launches the LP670-4 SV. And, you know, if you look at US production, these cars are just so rare because they couldn't sell. Most were produced black, white, very simple colors. You talk to any of the former Lamborghini salespeople, and no one was purchasing in 09, 08, 2010 bright colored cars. People did not feel like it was a time to flash and show excess. And here you have this car, an Arancio Atlas SV. 46 cars were ordered and produced for the US, so hardly any cars. You think of the numbers, and again, like the Miura SV and like the Diablo SV, Many were destroyed. There was a red car we know that Ed Bolian once owned. It was in a massive accident, a matte yellow car. I think some have been rebuilt, many have been rebuilt, but many were driven very hard and abused in period. When you briefly look at a Murciélago SV compared to the standard car, you don't realize until you get up close just how many unique parts of this car. I mean, it is a completely different car than a standard Murciélago. Everything from the mirror design, obviously the front bumper, the front fenders, the wheels, the side rockers, the scoops, obviously the rear wing. That was an option. You could have had a small rear wing, as we've seen in the manual car, or you could have had this massive bare carbon fiber wing, the rear bonnet in bare carbon exposed, the rear deck lid here, and then the massive rear diffuser exhaust system. Horsepower was increased, and then on the interior, all of the interior has been completely changed, from door panel, center console, the gauge cluster, the seats. You have these, this very cool design throughout the interior. So many changes with the SV. These are a completely different car. And even when you drive them, you just feel the differences. We could probably pull up from a parts manual all of the differences internally on an SV. And I think you guys would be surprised to see all of the unique differences with the Murciélago SV. When I look back at these three cars, I feel this sort of underdog story between the three cars, between the Miura SV, the Diablo SV, the Murciélago SV. And today I look at these cars and you look at the production numbers of an Aventador SV, and listen, Lamborghini produced a lot of cars, they sold a lot of cars, they've held their value, they've done really well. So I think the success story of Lamborghini is very exciting. I think these cars have an incredible future, and man, what a moment here to have all three together. Probably some of the best variants of SVs that exist today in the world. It's truly an honor, truly a magical moment to always have three of these cars together.